So recently, I saw that Netflix had been picking up a bunch of older animes, the Turner series. They've done this before with things like Fullmetal Alchemist and Death Note, but they've also recently picked up a lot more of the older shonen action animes. Um, you might have saw that they recently did a Cowboy Bebop show. A lot of these animes sort of came out back when I was in college, back in the early 2000s, between 2007, 2003, 2007 era. But I never really got into too many shonen action animes when I was in college. I was always sort of felt a bit too old for the sort of actiony genre to a large extent. I saw maybe one episode of Naruto, realized it wasn't for me. Saw maybe like a handful of episodes of Bleach, as well as a few episodes of Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter is the only one I actually sort of got into, watched a little bit more of that than the other ones, but never really got into it for me. And one thing I always sort of think about when I saw the Netflix stuff was all the sort of other big animes from that era that aren't the shonen action animes that Netflix definitely would probably never buy and pick up to be making to a show. And a lot of it is that there's less source material for a lot of this stuff. A lot of these other ones were these sort of shorter, more tighter 12 episode series or 24 episode series at the time versus something like a Naruto or Bleach or a One Piece, which has so much material to pick from that a writer could easily basically pick and choose what the best parts of it is. And as well as I understand the realities of what these sort of fan bases have, so that there is a bigger enhanced fan base in a lot of the action stuff than there is in a lot of the more dramatic or romantic animes. Like a lot of stuff sort of come and go versus some of these bigger stuff which sort of stick around for years and years and decades. But like I said before, it got me thinking about what sort of shows I would have picked up if I was Sergeant Netflix or whatever the president of Netflix's name is. And so here's sort of my list of the top 5 animes that I would want to see as a top 5 video goes. So the first one I would love to see picked up would be Parakiss, which is also known as Paradise Kiss, is the other sort of title for it. It was an anime from, again, early 2000s, sort of focusing on this woman who wants to be a fashion model and her romantic relationship with a man named Georgie. This show is also one of the shows that I would love to see how a more modern writing audience, sort of tackles a lot of the things and issues that the original source material has. How Georgie is sort of framed as this very good, like idealistic style boyfriend, even though the man is a horrible person, is how it's actually written. And the sort of the weirdness of the framing of how the show frames the character versus the character's actions, as well as how you deal with the one of the other friends who is sort of a den mother character, and how you sort of reframe her so that she's less of a den mother character, as well as also has that sort of weirdness from a lot of your early 2000 mangas and animes, which like you have a character who is clearly sort of coded as transgender, but at the same time the anime sort of like waffles on them. And I understand there's a lot of cultural differences how like Japan has a sort of gender essentialism style to approach a transgender people, and I get that that's a large factor in why you have a lot of these characters like like the character from Parakiss or the character from Princess Jellyfish, for another example. Which leaves my number 2 pick, which would be I like to see Montevideo Princess Jellyfish, because I think that's another good show which has some interesting things that will be interesting to tackle and see how a more modern show tackles some of the characters and subject matters that occur throughout the series. Namely, and there was even a Japanese live adaptation of Princess Jellyfish, which, rather than trying to re-tackle some of the issues that the original one has, just sort of changed character relationships and changed their personalities altogether, rather than having to deal with some of the more sensitive subject matter that the original brings up, but doesn't really tackle to a really significant extent. It's just sort of either background noise or just something to press the story forward. Now, my number 3 anime that I would like to see picked up as a live action adaptation would be a show that you probably would have definitely gotten years ago, which would be something like what is called Bartender, which is a show about a bartender in Japan who sort of tells these sort of mini vignettes and brings it back to how it relates to whoever is in the bar and the drink that they're serving to the person. So telling history of the drink sometimes telling a story about how the drink relates to their situation by breaking down the various ingredients. And I think that would also be a very good one to see and tackle, not because it has any sort of major issues that I'll like to see modernization of, just because it's fun. It's a nice fun one. Next one on my list, this is a toughie. Let me think about it for a second. What is the next anime that everyone I would like to see? And I think I know the more obvious answer would be something like, what about a magical girl show? Like, we have all these sort of much more shows targeted towards the teenage boy crowd, when we don't really have any of the magical girl shows. Like, rarely do you get, I don't even think of a time that we had an American adaptation of any of those sort of things in magical girl genre. Like, maybe there's something obscure that I don't know about, but I can't think of any. And so one pick could be, you say Sailor Moon. That's the most popular one. But I'm like, no, let's not go for Sailor Moon. Let's go for something a little bit more obscure. And it's like, okay, how about Madoka Magica? I'm like, okay, that's a good one too. Good option. But no, let's go for something like even more obscure but weirder. And so my number 4 choice is Princess Tutu. Princess Tutu was a show again from the early 2000s, so the same genre era as Netflix is liking to pick up, but it was about basically a sort of a fantasy sort of ballet universe. So basically all the various sort of old ballets all existed within this universe, and they all sort of came to life. And the main character is sort of a combination of the Ugly Duckling and the Swan from Swan Lake. She's sort of a combo of those sort of amalgamation of those sort of 2 fairy tale stories. And that one I think would be a good one, just because will be incredibly interesting to get sort of to see like a high budget orchestra version of a lot of songs from there, as well as having actual ballet dancers performing a lot of the things in the show. And one thing that's interesting about the show itself is that, for the most part, the main character doesn't sort of fight the monster with physical force and violence. It's more metaphorical violence using the power of dance. It basically defeats the enemy with the power of dance. The most powerful power there is in that universe. And now, so what is my last choice? What is the topmost choice of animes I would like to see adapted into a Netflix show? What is it? What is number 1 give you a little bit of time to guess. Leave your guess what and I'm gonna pick down below is gonna be. It could be anything. You never know. Am I starting with time? On my quick take? Did I not prepare? No, that's not what it is. I'm just keeping the suspense going to see what is the fifth pick on my list, aka my top choice for something I would like to see Netflix adapt into a show. And I think the number one pick actually is from a lot later. It's from well after I was in college. And this one would be Yuri on Ice. This is a show about a male figure skater and sort of his career challenges as well as his relationship to this other male figure skater who is heavily implied to be his boyfriend. And like it's one of those things like it's so heavily implied and so thinly veiled, it is definitely his boyfriend, but at the same time, the original one couldn't outright state it because of censorship rules and censorship laws against having a gay character. But I think a left adaptation could, one, circumvent and skirt these laws, obviously because being in America, but as well as I would like to see actually having the actual performances done. And so that's my top 5 list. Let me know what you guys think. Bye.